Three people went missing in Zone 7 before they stopped sending us in. I want you to understand something about that sentence before I go any further. In 22 years of park ranger work in Alaska, I have been part of search and rescue operations that covered some of the most unforgiving terrain on this continent. I have gone into places that would make most people turn around before they started. Whiteout conditions on exposed ridge lines, river crossings in spring, melt when the water is fast enough to knock a man off his feet in 18 inches of depth. I have never once been part of a decision to stop searching for a missing person, not once in 22 years, until Zone 7. My name is Walt Greer. I work for the Alaska Department of Natural Resources Backcountry Division, stationed out of a small field office in the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, north of Anchorage. The park I cover is not one that appears in travel guides. It does not have a visitor center or a parking lot or a boardwalk through the scenic sections. It is a working wilderness area managed for habitat and watershed protection with a small network of maintenance trails used by agency personnel only. The public does not come here. The public does not know this place exists in any specific way. It is on the maps as a general wilderness designation, and that is all it has ever needed to be. Zone 7 is the northeastern corner of the park. About 40 square miles of mixed terrain, alder thickets and black spruce bog, and a river drainage that braids and splits across a gravel floodplain before heading north toward the Alaska Range. It looks like the rest of the park from the air. From the ground, it looks like the rest of the park too. At first, it takes a little while on the ground before you start to notice the differences. Before you start to notice that the birds are wrong and the light is wrong and the air has a quality to it that the rest of the park does not have, a thickness, like the atmosphere, is just slightly more present than it should be. The three missing persons were all agency personnel. A trail maintenance worker in 2009, a wildlife biologist in 2013, a ranger from my own division in 2019. All three went into Zone 7 on routine assignments. All three failed to return. All three searches were called off within 72 hours, which is not standard protocol for missing agency personnel in accessible terrain with known last positions. 72 hours, and then the searches stopped and the zone was reclassified, and the decision was made that I am going to tell you about. I was part of the 2019 search. The ranger who went missing was a man named Dennis Coyle. I had known Dennis for 11 years. He was experienced, careful, the kind of man who filed detailed route plans and carried backup navigation equipment and had never once in his career required a rescue. He went into Zone 7 on a Tuesday morning to check a water monitoring station near the eastern boundary of the drainage, and he did not come back out on Tuesday afternoon. And he has not come back out since. We searched for 68 hours. I was on the ground for most of it. What I can tell you about those 68 hours is that Zone 7 resisted the search in a way that terrain does not normally resist a search. Trails that were on our maps were not where our maps said they were. GPS coordinates that should have put us within 50 yards of Dennis's last known position put us somewhere that did not match any feature we could identify on the ground. Radio contact inside the zone was intermittent in patterns that had nothing to do with topography. We would lose signal in open flat ground and regain it in heavy timber. The search dogs would not enter certain sections of the zone regardless of what their handlers asked of them. One dog, a German shepherd named Coda, that had 8 years of wilderness search experience, sat down at the edge of a section of black spruce bog and refused to move forward and shook in a way I had never seen a working dog shake before. On the morning of the third day, the division director called the search. I did not agree with the decision. I said so directly. The director listened to what I said, and then he said, "Walt, I need you to come into the office this afternoon." There are things about Zone 7 you need to know before you go back in there. I said I was not planning to stop searching. He said, I know. Come in anyway. I came in. What the director told me that afternoon changed the way I understood the park I had been working in for 19 years at that point. He did not tell me everything. I understand that now. He told me what he thought I needed to know to do my job going forward. The rest I have figured out in the 3 years since. Zone 7 has been a no-search zone since 2019. The reclassification is internal, not public, documented in agency records as an unresolved geological hazard area pending further assessment. The assessment is not pending. There is no assessment. The classification exists to keep personnel out of the zone and to provide a bureaucratic explanation if anyone asks why a search was called off so quickly. The no-search designation does not mean the zone is unmonitored. It means the monitoring changed. What we do now is what I am going to tell you about. I patrol the boundary of Zone 7, not the interior. The boundary, a defined perimeter route that runs along the outer edge of the zone, close enough to observe the interface between Zone 7 and the rest of the park, far enough inside to constitute a genuine presence rather than a distant observation. The boundary route is 11 miles. I walk it alone, at night, 3 times a week. I have been doing this for 3 years. I was given a protocol document when I started boundary patrol. 12 pages, agency, formatted, but with a cover sheet that said for operational use only, not for inclusion in standard records. I have that document memorized. Here is what it says and what 3 years of walking that boundary has taught me about what it means. The boundary must be walked between 9 in the evening and 5 in the morning. Daytime boundary walks do not fulfill the monitoring requirement. The document does not explain why. After 3 years, I have my own explanation, which is that whatever Zone 7 is most actively doing, it does it at night, and the boundary walk needs to coincide with that activity to be effective. A boundary walked in daylight is like a fence checked when the thing that tests it is sleeping. It tells you nothing useful. Do not cross the boundary line into Zone 7 under any circumstances. The boundary is marked with orange posts set at 50-yard intervals. If you cannot see the next post from the one you are standing at, stop. Do not continue until you can confirm the next post visually. If posts are missing or displaced, do not attempt to locate them by moving into the zone. Note the gap and continue along the last confirmed boundary line using your compass. The posts will resume. They always resume. I have had posts go missing on 14 occasions in 3 years. They always come back by the next patrol. Not replaced by anyone I have ever seen, just back in place, same position, same depth in the ground, like they never left. I stopped noting it in my standard log after the first few times. I keep a separate notebook for Zone 7 anomalies. It has 93 entries in it. Do not respond to sounds from inside the zone. This includes voices, animal sounds, mechanical sounds, and any sound that resembles a distress call. Log the sound, the direction, and the duration, and continue your route. Do not alter your pace. Do not stop to listen, note, and continue. The first time I heard Dennis Coyle's voice from inside Zone 7, I was 6 months into boundary patrol. It was 2 in the morning, clear night in early March, cold enough that the ground was iron hard under my boots. I was on the northeastern section of the boundary, the stretch that runs closest to the drainage where Dennis's last position had been logged in 2019. His voice came from inside the zone at a distance I estimated at about 200 yards. He was saying my name, Walt, hey Walt. Just that, repeated, calm, conversational, the exact tone he used when he was across a room and wanted to get my attention without shouting. I have known Dennis Coyle for 14 years. I know his voice the way I know my wife's voice. I know the specific way he says my name. What came out of Zone 7 that night was his voice. I am not telling you it sounded like his voice. I am telling you it was his voice. Exactly, perfectly, with no variation from the real thing that I could detect. I logged it and kept walking. I have heard Dennis's voice from inside Zone 7 19 times in 3 years, always at night, always on the northeastern section of the boundary, always calm, always saying my name or something brief and ordinary. Hey, Walt, you there? Walt, come on. Nothing urgent, nothing dramatic. The normalcy of it is the worst part. A desperate voice is easier to resist than a normal one. The protocol document has a section that addresses this directly. It says you will hear voices from inside the zone that belong to people you know. Some of these people may be missing persons associated with the zone. The voice is not the person. The zone has access to a record of sounds that have occurred within it, and it uses that record in the way that an animal uses a lure. Do not be the thing that responds to the lure. Acknowledge the sound in your log and continue your route. I have read that paragraph more times than I can count. The zone has access to a record of sounds. I think about what that means. Every sound Dennis made in the hours before he disappeared. Every word he said to himself, to his equipment, into his radio. The zone absorbed all of it and kept it and now uses it at 2 a.m. on clear March nights to see if I will cross the boundary. I will not cross the boundary. That is my commitment to this work and to Dennis both, as strange as it sounds to put it that way. The best thing I can do for Dennis Coyle is not go in after him. The director made that clear, and 3 years of walking that boundary have made it clearer still. If you cross the boundary, you become part of what the zone has access to. Your voice joins the record. Your name becomes the thing that calls the next person who walks the boundary at 2 a.m. on a clear, cold night. That is not search and rescue. That is addition to the problem. I am not going to add to the problem. The fourth rule in the protocol document says at the northeastern corner of the boundary where the drainage is closest to the perimeter line, slow your pace by half and keep your eyes on the orange posts, not on the interior. The drainage is visible from this section on clear nights. Do not look at it. Keep your eyes on the posts and walk at half pace until you clear the corner and the drainage falls out of your sight line. This section requires more time than the others. Budget for it. The first time I walked that section, I did not fully follow the rule. I glanced toward the drainage once, briefly, the way you glance at something you are trying not to look at, that involuntary check. What I saw in the half second before I pulled my eyes back to the posts was enough to make me follow that rule exactly and completely for every patrol since. I am not going to describe what I saw, not because I do not remember it, because describing it would not help you and might hurt you, and there is no version of this work where that trade is worth making. Keep your eyes on the posts, walk at half pace, clear the corner. The fifth rule says, if the orange posts begin to lean towards the interior of the zone, stop your patrol immediately and return to the trailhead. Do not attempt to correct the posts. Do not continue the route with leaning posts. Exit the boundary area and radio coordination before you reach your vehicle. Wait for instructions at the trailhead. The posts have leaned twice in 3 years. Both times I exited immediately and radioed coordination and waited. Both times coordination told me to take 48 hours off and return for the next scheduled patrol as normal. I asked once what leaning posts indicated. The coordinator on duty that night, a woman named Reese, who has worked this zone longer than I have, said, it means the boundary is under pressure from the inside. The posts lean toward the pressure the way a fence leans toward whatever is pushing on it. 48 hours gives the pressure time to settle. I said, settle how? She said, the same way weather settles. It moves through. Then she changed the subject. The sixth rule says, do not discuss Zone 7 with other agency personnel who are not assigned to boundary patrol. This includes people you trust. The zone has a way of becoming a subject of interest to people who learn about it, and interest draws attention, and attention from the wrong people at the wrong time creates situations that are difficult to manage. The boundary patrol works because it is quiet and consistent and small. Keep it that way. I have followed this rule. What I am doing right now, telling you this, falls outside the rule in the strictest sense. I am telling you because you are going to walk that boundary, or you already are walking it, and you need to know what you are dealing with from someone who has been dealing with it, and not just from a protocol document written by people who understood it theoretically. The document is right about everything it covers. I want to be clear about that. Every rule in it reflects real operational experience, and I have never had cause to doubt any of it. But a document cannot tell you what it feels like to hear your friend's voice from 200 yards inside a zone you are not allowed to enter. It cannot tell you what it costs to log it and keep walking. It cannot tell you that the cost is worth it, that the boundary holds because you hold it, that the 3 people who went missing before the patrol started went missing because there was no one walking that line at 2 in the morning, keeping the pressure on the outside. The document cannot tell you those things. That is what I am here for. Here is what 3 years has taught me beyond the rules. Zone 7 is not a place where bad things happen. It is a place that is a different kind of place than the places around it. It operates by different rules than the rest of the park. Time inside it may not work the way time works outside it. I say may not because I do not know for certain, and I am not going to tell you something as fact that I only know as strong suspicion. But the 3 people who went missing in accessible terrain with known last positions and were never found despite thorough searches, and that has to mean something about what happened to the time they were moving through when they went in. The boundary patrol does not fix that. It does not make Zone 7 into a normal place. It keeps the boundary between Zone 7 and the rest of the park from shifting. That boundary is not a line on a map. It is not the orange posts, though the posts mark it. It is something older than the posts and older than the park and older than any human decision about where one kind of place ends and another begins. The patrol maintains it the way a levee maintains a river. The river does not stop being a river. The levee just keeps it where it belongs. I keep Zone 7 where it belongs. 3 nights a week, 11 miles, 9 in the evening to 5 in the morning. Dennis Coyle's voice at 2 in the morning on the northeastern section is the price of that work. I pay it every time it comes. I log it and I keep walking and I do not cross the line. When my posting ends, I will brief whoever comes after me in person. Not just the protocol document, in person. Because there are things that need to be said out loud by someone who has done the work, and the document does not cover all of them. The main thing I will tell them is the same thing I am telling you now. The zone keeps the record of every sound made inside it, every voice, every name called out, every noise a person makes in their last hours before they are no longer findable. Do not add your voice to that record. Stay on the boundary. Walk your line. Keep your eyes on the posts. Come home in the morning. That is the whole job. Every single night. That is all it is. Come home in the morning.